Hey everyone, Robert here, author of Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life. Are you ready to start living your life to the fullest? Are you ready and willing to exert the effort necessary to transform yourself and your life from ordinary to extraordinary, even in these times of great chaos? Then you've come to the right place. Welcome, my friends, to the Fully Engaged Life. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Something I'd like to share real quick with you is I was talking with a friend and student the other day, and he said, you were telling us about all of this stuff that's going on. You were telling us that this stuff was going to happen back at the end of 2007, beginning of 2008. And if you've listened to some of my earliest podcasts, then you heard me speaking about it clear back then when I was saying that I had this incredible experience back in late 2007. I believe it was either September or October. And it was then that I became acutely aware of the massive changes that we were facing. I spoke about the change in energy in the chi field, how we would be shifting from yang to yin energy. And that's what we're seeing here throughout the world right now with all of this chaos, is this extreme yang point as this energy breaks. How long that lasts, nobody can really say. But if you are sensitive enough to energies, then you can feel this happening all around us. And we can also see it because this chaos isn't just localized in one place. It's worldwide right now. And of course, it's coupled with the great consciousness shift. And even though this consciousness shift was formally said to take place in 2012, that too, I was telling people about back in 2007, 2008. And no, I'm not a fortune teller and I cannot predict the future. I don't make predictions. All I can explain is what I feel and how I'm able to interpret what I'm feeling. So there's nothing special about that. As far as how it was actually to play out, well, that was anybody's guess. But it is incredibly interesting to watch it all unfold. So with this episode, I had a number of people contact me with various questions regarding the last episode that I did on the Map of Meditation. So what I would like to do is address some of those questions and explain these answers in great detail. Now, I do my best to get with each of you individually because this is an individual experience and I try and help you understand it from your individual standpoint. But I think these questions were really, really great questions. And I'm certain everyone can benefit from them. So let's go deeper into this idea of meditation and the various stages that I presented in the last episode. So one of the questions was, is this map of meditation the one true path to meditation? Is it the only real form of meditation? Excellent question. So let's explore this. Is what I presented in those various stages the only true form of meditation? No, absolutely not. However, we have to understand this. Meditation is simply meditation. There is only one meditation, okay? Meditation is when we don't try to do anything. There's no trying, there's no forcing, there's nothing. There's only letting go of in order to attain a sense of stillness and silence of the mind. Anytime we are trying anything, anytime we are working with the mind to engage its processes, better understand it, reflect on it, things like that, those are meditative practices. And there are tons of those, and every spiritual system has their own way of addressing those. So there's many ways to look at those things. There's not just one true way. However, when it comes to meditation, there is only one meditation. Okay? That's all there is. There is nothing else. Now, is the path that I provided, those stages, is that the only way that meditation can unfold with your experience? No. What I presented was a list of stages that I myself experienced that correlated with the various teachings that I acquired from several masters. I've trained with several masters and grandmasters in meditation and spirituality, and I found this to be the most consistent with what they were teaching and with what I was capable of experiencing in my own meditation practice. Now, along with that, some of the things that I included, such as various forms of distraction, are the most common that are experienced with all human beings, regardless of the spiritual system you tend to study. So we have to keep in mind that we all have our own unique experience with things like meditation, but there are parameters, and those parameters are set so we don't fall victim to our own delusions. We want to make sure that we understand what meditation is, because especially here in the West, meditation is tossed around with an incredible sense of looseness that most of the time has absolutely nothing to do with actual meditation. They're just doing a relaxation exercise. And the same goes for mindfulness. Mindfulness became a corporate buzzword here, and it was tossed around so freely that it started to lose all value and meaning, and it didn't even resemble anything to do with the actual authentic teachings of mindfulness. So we have to be careful, and those parameters are given to us along with these various stages as guidelines to help us stay on the right track as we engage in mindfulness and meditation. Now, there may be all kinds of external trappings, sit this way, hold this, stare at that, you have to sit on this cushion or that, you have to do all these things. But the bottom line is those things can change from spiritual system to spiritual system, but the act of meditation in its purest form as a practice is the same across the board. It is what it is, period. So it isn't that the map I provided is the one true way to meditation or true experience of meditation. Meditation itself is true meditation. So use these stages as a guide to help you understand what you're doing and where you're at currently with the practices. But you don't want to try to force your experience into the box of any of those stages. Allow your own unique experience to be what it is as you practice within the parameters of what meditation truly is. Okay, and another question was, is it really necessary to have mindfulness in order to meditate? Because you mentioned it in several of the stages. Do we need to attain mindfulness in order to be successful with meditation? Well, in my opinion, yes, we do. Is it absolutely necessary? No, it is not. Let me explain. In order to meditate, do we need to do any other practices? No, you don't need to. However, other practices, such as mindfulness, help to prepare us for a more successful meditation experience. If you try to attain a sense of mindfulness on your own in meditation to become aware of such things as drowsiness and forgetfulness and things, that can take a long time and be very difficult to deal with. However, if we attain a state of mindfulness through authentic mindfulness practices beforehand, then we're better equipped when we go into meditation to be aware of such things. So it allows us to pass through the first 2 or even 3 stages more rapidly. And what's even more important is it allows us to do so far more effectively. So if you want to just meditate, you can certainly do so. You can engage in meditation and just go for pure meditation. But quite often, people will become frustrated and stop. They'll quit the practice because they can't seem to focus. They can't seem to bring their mind to stillness. They can't bring it to silence. They're unable to do those things, so they stop. Whereas if you go through the teachings of mindfulness and develop mindfulness and then engage in meditative practices beforehand, you are far better equipped for success in meditation. And this is why there are literally thousands of meditative practices. All of them are designed to help prepare us for meditation. Okay, and another question. This one's really good. The person said, you say to let go of distractions like pain and things, but I have a knee injury, and when I sit in a particular position, the knee is so painful that it keeps distracting me. And I feel as though I need to force myself to ignore the pain, which doesn't seem like that would be the same as letting go. What do I do with this? What's going on? Okay, so there are many aspects to this question. This is a fantastic question. First and foremost, if you have an injury or anything that is causing you tremendous pain from sitting in a certain position, I recommend, and I'm not a doctor, so I'm not giving medical advice here, but I recommend that you do not sit in that position. If you are sitting in a position such as the full lotus or the half lotus or fudoza, seiza, whatever it is, if it causes pain, then it's irritating the injury and making it worse. And that is not something we should work through or force. Remember, there is no forcing anything in meditation, not even this. We're not trying to work through it. We're not trying to force ourselves to ignore it. The idea is to sit in something safe and relatively comfortable. Do not irritate an injury. You can easily alter the position, such as in this case is a knee injury. You can easily alter the position of your legs. There are just some key guidelines to adhere to. 1, make sure your knees are lower than your hips so the blood doesn't pool in your hips. And 2, try to avoid sitting in a way that creates muscle tension in the legs. So the whole idea is some of these postures are supposed to be a bit uncomfortable in the beginning, but there is a big difference between a little discomfort and searing pain, right? I think we're all in agreement on that. So the discomfort is there to help us stay awake so we don't fall asleep. After a while, you don't really need that. Once you get past the point where you're no longer struggling with the mind becoming bored and dozing off, you don't have to worry about that as much. And of course, there are various postures that have to do with energy flow and direction and things like that as well. But what we want to do is to understand the difference between pain and discomfort. If you're sitting in meditation and you have severe lower back pain, then you need to sit in a chair or against a wall or some other way to brace your back and make sure that you're not suffering in severe pain, because that's just going to distract you from any successful meditation. However, if you are sitting there and you're just experiencing a little lower back discomfort, then that's telling us that we need to adjust our positioning, that our posture is not correct. And posture is very important to meditation. So if your posture is incorrect, you haven't correctly stacked from the pelvis up the spine to the shoulders to the neck, so on and so forth. If you haven't stacked your spine correctly, if you haven't aligned yourself correctly, then you can end up with some discomfort in the lower back or even in your neck, because a lot of people have their neck craning forward, and that needs to be corrected. You do that by tipping the chin back and down slightly, and this will align the neck properly. So if we have just a little minor discomfort, our feet are falling asleep or something like that, those are the things that we should get beyond. And the reason why we want a little bit of discomfort is because we can understand then through our awareness as we're in meditation. When we start to transcend the mind, we also transcend the body. And then all of a sudden, you can't feel that anymore. And that's a nice indicator that you're starting to go deeper into meditation. However, if it's so much that you just can't let go and allow your mind to become still, in other words, if your mind keeps thinking things like, oh, that hurts so bad, oh, this sucks, right? Oh, it's so painful, I can't do anything, then you can't engage in meditation successfully. So then it's a distraction and it's detrimental to you. So as I stated earlier, we never try to ignore pain. We never try to let go of pain. We try to do that with mild discomfort, and those are very different things. So whenever you engage in any practice, including that of meditation, keep yourself not just mentally safe, but physically safe as well. And this question brought up another great point, that the person felt as though they were having to force themselves to ignore it in order to let go of the pain. And again, remember, those two things, as far as parameters of meditation, if you feel you're forcing yourself to do anything in any way, then you're not engaging in meditation. If you are trying to do something or trying not to do something, the simple act of trying means that you are not engaging in actual meditation. So in real meditation, we aren't trying to attain stillness as such. We're not trying to become silent in our mind as such. What we are doing is like the analogy I shared of the mucky pond. You just let go and allow the mind to settle on its own. We're not trying to make it do that. We're not forcing it to do that. What we are doing is literally nothing. We allow it to happen of its own accord. That is real, authentic meditation. In meditation, we have nothing to prove. We don't have to be macho and tough and cool and try and force our way through something. Meditation is the exact opposite of that. So make sure that you are able to find a position that you can sit in where your posture is correct. That's essential. But you are not in pain. You can have a little bit of mild discomfort. Usually the discomfort is going to set in as you've been sitting there a while. If you start right out with discomfort, then it's probably because your posture is not correct. And again, remember, we need correct posture. One, so that the body can hold itself up correctly. And two, so that we can breathe correctly. Because at the very heart, the very core of everything, whether it's meditation, spirituality, energy healing, martial arts, it doesn't matter. What is at the very core of all of it is breathing. Mastery of the breath through various practices such as mindfulness and meditative practices is essential so that we can master the very core of what all spirituality is based around, and that is the breath. And there are countless schools of spirituality, and they all have their own unique way of breathing during meditation. That's fine. But what it all comes down to, what is most important is this. One, that your posture facilitates easy, correct breathing. And two, that you are breathing from the abdomen, not the chest. You have to be engaging diaphragmatic breathing in meditation. And all the other techniques are fine. Whatever else system may offer is probably just fine, as long as it allows for those two things, if it's based around those two things. All right, and another question is single-pointed concentration the same as meditation? In a lot of texts, we see the word concentration used in place of meditation. This can be tricky because we have to understand that a lot of these texts are actually translated by scholars, not those that actually engage in the act of meditation. However, there are many incredible lamas and priests and monks and so on that are actually sharing this material and doing so very, very well. So we need to look at it this way. If we are concentrating is an act. It is something we are doing. So ideally, if we see something like single-pointed concentration, focused concentration comes first. What that means, we have to be able to focus the mind. We have to bring the mind from being busy down to a single thing, and we have to be able to hold it there. This is how we discipline the mind to be able to meditate. But concentration is focusing the mind, and that usually implies that the mind is active. So that is not generally meditation. Now, it could be that a specific teacher is referring to it as such, and that's fine. But we need to distinguish the difference. Most of the time when we're trying to attain single-pointed concentration, that's where we're trying to free ourselves of distractions and be able to allow our mind to rest on one single thing and hold it there for as long as we like. So a lot of times that will be considered as a form of meditation. But I consider that to be a meditative practice because I have a goal. I am trying to bring my mind to a single point and hold it there. Sometimes they do this with like a moon disc on the wall in front of them or a statue in front of them or something. So those are practices. Meditation, I'm not trying to hold my mind to a single point. I'm trying to let it go. I'm trying to go beyond it. I'm trying to transcend the mind altogether and attain no mind. We can't really have concentration, which is an act of the mind, when we are in no mind. So practices like single-pointed concentration, working on concentration, sometimes you'll see it as focused or right concentration. Those are fantastic and very necessary practices, but we want to understand they are practices where we are looking to attain something from them. In meditation, we are not looking to attain anything. We allow stillness and silence. We allow the mind to kind of dissolve away, but we are not trying for that. We're not looking for that. We're not seeking anything. We're not trying anything. We're not forcing anything in actual meditation. We are literally just in a state of being. All right, and the final question was, I didn't realize that my mind would become bored so quickly without some form of entertainment or distraction. How can I tell the difference between my mind being bored and just forgetting what I'm supposed to be doing in the practice? All right, another fantastic question with multiple points here. The first is, yes, recognizing how easily the mind may become bored if it doesn't have some form of entertainment or distraction is essential. Mindfulness is what gives us the ability to be aware of such things. So ultimately, if I practiced and attained successfully a state of mindfulness, I would be aware of this before I even try to meditate, which means I have the ability to correct that through meditative practices, also through limiting how much external stimulation of entertainment that I allow myself. Now, as far as internal entertainment, this is usually referring to emotions, because the mind likes to entertain itself with emotions. It plays with emotions. Emotions are like a child's toy that keeps the mind occupied. And when we step outside of thought and we step outside of emotion, which I mean we suspend those mental processes, the mind can become bored very quickly. Now, this is exacerbated if we are addicted to entertainment and distraction. If we keep chasing the new shiny thing, I think one of the biggest examples of this would be like a fad diet or a fad workout or fashion clothing, right? If you keep jumping on that all the time, then that shows that your mind is addicted to distraction. Or if you just have trouble focusing, if you can't focus your mind on a single thing and hold it there for a while, again, your mind is addicted to distraction. Now, entertainment feeds that distraction, weakens the mind, and causes us to become more easily susceptible to distraction. Not to mention, it's creating an addiction to entertainment. These things serve to create resistance to our ability to focus and certainly to then let go of the mind and go beyond the mind in meditation. Okay, so then how do we know if, while we're trying to meditate, my mind is distracted or if I forgot? Well, it comes down to the quality of what is happening in that experience. And generally, you can tell by what's going on. When we forget that we're meditating, and this is probably the most common thing we all face in meditation. I remember going through this so clearly. And you're sitting there and you have, the initial intent of what you're trying to do. And then you let go of that and you just do nothing at all. It's very easy for your mind to start thinking again because that's a normal state. You're used to having these thoughts going through your head all day long, all night long, 24 hours a day. And for us to turn that off, for that to kind of dissolve away in meditation, first it can be a little scary, but I assure you there's no reason for that. But because our normal state of mind is that bombarded by a constant landslide of thoughts, the mind will go right back to it, and we won't be aware of it at first, and we'll start thinking again. And that is how the forgetfulness works. If we are distracted, if the mind is distracted because it's bored, then you can usually tell it's trying to entertain itself. And it likes to do that with thought and emotion. So there'll usually be some sort of emotional charge to what's going on in the mind at that point. And that's how you can tell. And again, this speaks to the necessity of attaining mindfulness in the beginning, because mindfulness will allow you to have already created a pretty strong base for keeping the mind focused on a single point and no longer allowing it to be so easily distracted by things around you in the external world or by the things going on, such as thoughts and emotions, in your internal world, in your mind. To try to become aware of all of this and then correct it in meditation causes us to no longer be actually meditating, but engaging some sort of meditative practice. So we have several things that can distract us during meditation. Now, if it's pain, pain is certainly going to lead to irritation. Irritation or frustration, these things are normal things that can distract us in meditation. But if we enter meditation in a state of severe pain, or even just pain itself, it's pretty certain that our mind will jump to some form of irritation rather quickly. So we're trying to avoid pain. We're trying to let go and move past any mild discomfort. Okay? So you either correct it with your posture or you just let go of it and accept it. It's happens like this. You're aware of it. You're aware that it's uncomfortable, but you don't have to allow the mind to attach to it to where it starts thinking about it. That's the distinction that must be made. See, and it is mindfulness that allows us to attain this state of awareness. This awareness allows us to recognize discomfort, but not attach to it. So that attachment starts thoughts and emotions to arise, which cause distractions. It also gives us the awareness to know if my mind is being bored and therefore starts to take it into a form of drowsiness. Basically, if your mind is bored, you're either going to become drowsy and start to doze off, which is not ideal, or it's going to take you into a distraction or form of entertainment, such as calling up emotions. And as soon as you allow yourself to attach to any of those distractions, then the meditation is blown. And you have to regroup and try again. So awareness is crucial to meditation. And it is through awareness that we know if our mind is starting to wander on to other things, if the mind starts to think again, or if those thoughts start to produce emotions again. And we realize that this is happening. And in the beginning, you can even allow that to happen. It's going to happen. Just don't attach to them. You know what I mean? So you have these thoughts going through your head. Okay, so the thoughts came up. This is part of the process. As those thoughts come up, you just kind of watch them go by, just like you watch a cloud float across the sky. But you don't attach to it. You don't identify to them. You just kind of let it go and go, yeah, there's a stray thought, and just let it go. This is normal in the beginning stages until you get the mind to settle down. But if we have the awareness not to attach to those things, then we start to make progress. You see, the problem that most people have is they identify with these random thoughts. They believe they are doing the thinking. Well, when you engage in meditation, it doesn't take too long to realize that is not the case. If it is you who is doing the thinking and thinking those random thoughts, then how can you sit back and watch them float by through your mind without attaching to them? See, this is part of the experience you will have in those beginning stages. That's why the beginning stages are so critically important. And then you'll also recognize if you have, this dullness, this drowsiness, and you'll understand if that's from boredom. You'll also recognize any form of irritation, agitation, frustration, any of that arises too. And again, you can't attach to it emotionally. You have to just recognize it, observe it, and let it go. And as you are engaged with all of this, you may start to become aware that the mind is becoming more and more capable of remaining still and silent for longer and longer periods of time. And if your mind is really busy and you just can't get it to become still at all, it's like a hyper child running around the room, then I encourage you to look for the gaps in between your thoughts. And I've done entire podcasts and I've wrote about this in my book. So if you're having a really tough time with meditation, then seek the gaps. Okay? The gaps are where the stillness and the silence reside. And that's a wonderful starting place. Okay, well, that's all the time we have this week. I hope those answers bring some clarity to you and your practice. And please make sure to visit me at www.expansionmastery.com. Grab your autographed copy of Expansion Mastery. Download a copy of my newly revised and expanded ebook, Reinventing Yourself Through Realignment, and all kinds of other goodies. Make sure and read the blog articles there. There's some great stuff on the site. And please support us on social media. Most importantly, share these podcasts. Let's get real spirituality out there to the people so they can use it and we can continue to help in this spiritual expansion, this consciousness shift that is taking place with humanity. Make sure and do all the subscribe and the like and comments, and all of that stuff helps. And if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to send them to me. You can send them to me at expansionmastery@hotmail.com or through the website. I do my best to read and answer every single one of these myself and address them on the show so everyone gets the benefit, in addition to addressing them from each individual and their unique need. Thanks again, everyone, and until next time, do your best to release the fear. Do not live in fear. Relax and enjoy your life. And just remember, wherever you are in the world, whatever race you are, I love you and I wish you the very best in your practices and your life. Take care.